What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. Guess what? We're starting off the iPhone 11 comparison train with this first comparison, the iPhone 11 versus the iPhone XR. Now, I'm going to try to go in depth as possible. I'm not trying to make this video 30 minutes long because in reality, there's changes for sure. There's a lot of changes that I've even seen right now, but for the most part, I'm just going to save everyone time. Like, if you have the iPhone XR, I honestly don't think you should update at all. I think this is barely an update outside of the camera department. Yes, you're getting a faster processor, you're getting an extra gig of RAM, but in all other ways, in my opinion, I think it's worthwhile if you keep your iPhone XR. I think this is still an amazing phone and an amazing value. This is being sold for $599. This is being sold for $699. So you might as well just keep your iPhone XR, in my opinion. However, because these phones are still being sold, I mean, there's a huge demographic out there that want to know which one is the better value per dollar. There's really only $100 difference between these two. So if you're someone who doesn't know which phone to pick up or whatever, I mean, I'll tell you, the iPhone XR might be a better value per dollar, but the iPhone 11 still has some key features, and I guess I'll just show you the differences. I'll do a speed comparison as well. I'm going to have a full-on camera comparison, a different dedicated video. I'll hit on it briefly here, but I'm going to make a whole separate video talking about that, so keep it locked down on the channel so you don't miss that. Hit that subscribe button. But in terms of the way they feel in the hand, I've heard some people say that the iPhone 11 feels more premium, but I can tell you otherwise. Like, they feel almost identical. Really, the only difference is even by the camera sensor. So as you guys probably know, the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pro Max, they have like a frosted white background with a glass camera piece thing, whatever. This one is the exact opposite. So this one has the glass piece on it, but it has that frosted feeling glass by the camera. The iPhone XR, as you guys know, it only has a single sensor. So that is a little bit of a difference right there. Obviously the extra dedicated ultra wide sensor right here, but I think in terms of the outside, that's where the differences mostly lie. As you can see, they're almost identically the same thickness and pretty much the same feeling overall. But I will tell you guys though, and this is a weird thing to say, because as far as I know, nobody else feels this way, but the frosted feeling on the 11 Pro feels a little weird to me. I don't know. I feel like the glass feels a little bit more premium. Maybe I have to break it in or something, but I don't know. But in terms of the way they feel, almost identical. Obviously the same port selection and everything. So I also heard a lot of people saying the bezels on the iPhone 11 are thicker, but as far as I can tell, they're almost identical. I know it's kind of hard to tell. I have the white model on the iPhone 11, the blue model on the iPhone XR, but I can tell you just by looking at them, they're almost the same. They probably are exactly the same. One cool little advantage of the iPhone 11 though is that it does have IP68 dust and water proof and water resistance. So you can go up to 2 meters of water for 30 minutes on the iPhone 11, but only 1 meter of water for 30 minutes on the iPhone XR. So technically speaking, you have that much more water resistance on the iPhone XR, so that's super cool. You know, I'm always happy when they kind of improve things in that sense. But in terms of everything else, almost identically the same. Now, in terms of the software functionality, in terms of the future ability of both these, this is where things kind of get a little interesting because I think there's a lot of similarities between these two devices. It's a little bit too early to tell now, so pardon me if I'm getting too into the future, but I think the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 will get the same software updates. I think they'll end at the same time, so I don't think one of them is going to outlast the other. Hopefully I'm right, so I can go back to this video and kind of show you guys that I'm right, but as far as I know right now, I think that's what's going to happen. But playing it safe, the iPhone 11 should probably get an extra year of support over the iPhone XR, so that pretty much covers that in terms of software. Not too much that we already didn't know. Now let's go ahead and run a little bit of a speed comparison. Now, as you guys know, the iPhone XR has the Apple A12 Bionic chip, a hexa-core CPU, and 3 gigs of RAM on all the models. The iPhone 11, however, has the Apple A13 chip that is also a Bionic chip, a hexa-core CPU as well, but this model and all the models have 4 gigs of RAM, so pretty cool. I like that. You know, I like the addition, but the weird thing is all the iPhone 11 models, including the Pro and the Pro Max, as far as we know, have 4 gigs of RAM, so I don't really know. That's kind of a weird thing, but let's go ahead and run the speed comparison. I'll go ahead and open up some apps, kind of show you guys, you know, which one is faster. I have almost identically the same apps on both, so let's go and run that speed comparison. Okay, so we got all of basically the same apps. Let me go ahead and clear out everything in the background on both phones. As you can see, the iPhone 11 is clear. Now that all the apps are clear, let's go ahead and bust them open. Let's do Facebook, 3, 2, 1. And as expected, the iPhone 11 did open that one up faster. Netflix, 3, 2, 1. And it was almost identical. One thing I will tell you though is right off the bat, there seems to be less wobbliness on the iPhone 11. On the iPhone XR, it's almost exactly the same actually. Twitter, 3, 2, 1. And actually the iPhone XR opened that one up faster. It's kind of weird, I wasn't expecting that. Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. And again, the iPhone XR opened that one up faster, and all these apps are updated to the most recent versions on both devices. Dropbox, 3, 2, 1. And again, the iPhone XR was faster there. That's really weird. That seems to be more the cases right now, but it's kind of too early to tell. So BOFA, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the iPhone 11 did open this one up faster, I'm happy to say, and by a noticeable amount too. As you guys saw, I mean, that was pretty big of a difference. Let's do Tenkyu, 3, 2, 1. As you can tell right off the bat, iPhone 11 kind of getting into that one fast, and almost like way faster. I mean, that's a big difference in my opinion. Now, this is not even that big of a game. It's not graphically intensive, as you guys can tell, but even for a game like this, I mean, that's kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Let's do Snake versus Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And you guys can tell, I mean, it's a pretty apparent difference, and it seems to be now the case that they're both kind of showcasing where their strong suits are. iPhone 11, for some reason, doing, I guess, the more intensive apps, which these aren't even that intensive. The iPhone XR was able to do those smaller apps faster, which I don't even understand why. Stack, 3, 2, 1. And this is a game that I always have issues with opening. There's always like some weird parameters or something like that. Oh, nope, they're good. I want to say the iPhone 11 opened that one up faster, got into the ad way faster, as you guys saw. Maybe that's, I don't even know what happened there, but pretty big difference in terms of that. Temple Run, original one, 3, 2, 1. And look at that difference. I mean, just immediately right off the bat, you can just see how big of a difference that is. And eventually we get into it on the iPhone XR. And I'm not trying to sit here and say the iPhone XR is a slow device at all. The iPhone XR is still very, very fast, but we can see that there is quite a bit of difference between the two, even loading up these basic apps like Temple Run and Snake vs. Blocks and apps like that. So Paper IO 2, 3, 2, 1. And even that one, I mean, it just got into it faster. Now, this is a pretty weird game because it's super glitchy on any phone I've ever ran it on. Maybe you guys will be able to tell a difference. Maybe one is less glitchy than the other. Hopefully the iPhone 11 is less glitchier. They're almost the same, I would say, in terms of the gameplay. Let's do Snapchat, 3, 2, 1. And even an app like Snapchat, now this is not going to be a life-changing difference, but you will save, a couple of milliseconds here and there. Maybe it'll add up over time. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And on the iPhone 11, it did download the files faster and actually got into the game. And I think the iPhone XR is still going to be loading. Yep. So this one's already ready to play on the 11. iPhone XR is followed, shortly after, but quite a bit of difference still between the two. Let's do Fruit Ninja. 3, 2, 1. Okay, we did get a little pop-up right here, but I will have to redo both of these because the iPhone 11 was still way ahead of that. Fruit Ninja. 3, 2, 1. And again, the iPhone 11 was the one faster here, so pretty cool. I'm really happy to say that. Now let's end it off with the Real Racing 3, a pretty intensive, I would say, app. Real Racing 3, 3, 2, 1. Oh, and it seems to be almost neck and neck, but I think the 11 is still going to win here. Yep, the iPhone 11 did win, by a little bit too, by at least a second. So overall, yes, the iPhone 11 is the faster device. I'll show you guys the benchmark score that I was getting. I mean, it's a pretty big difference. I mean, look at this one we're getting on here, 332,000. On the iPhone 11, 450,000. So if you use Geekbench, you might see a little bit of a different scoring system, but this one on Antutu, this is what I'm getting, which is a pretty crazy difference, I would say. I mean, the iPhone XR is still a very, very, very fast device. Don't think you have to update or anything. This is not a legacy device at all, but this one is a little bit faster. So in terms of the speed and everything, you guys saw the iPhone 11 was the faster one, but the more interesting thing is the camera. I think that's probably where the biggest difference lies. The iPhone XR had a single 12 megapixel sensor, which was a pretty good camera. The iPhone 11 though has two 12 megapixel sensors, a wide angle lens and an ultra wide angle lens, and no telephoto lens, but that's okay. And that's a pretty big difference right there. On the front actually though, lies another difference. We have a 7 megapixel camera on the iPhone XR and a 12 megapixel sensor on the iPhone 11, which allows you to do 4K at up to 60 frames per second now, which is awesome. We could do 1080p at 60 frames on the front camera on the XR. So if you're into 4K, if you're into that stuff, that's awesome. If you're not, then I guess it's not a big deal. But the back camera is, I think, one people are going to talk about the most. And obviously, without a doubt, the iPhone XR's camera still is very good. I think it's one of the better cameras, at least one of the best cameras on the Apple Store. Apple's still selling, if that means anything. And I did a bunch of comparisons with it, and I found that compared to even like my 7 Plus, 8 Plus, the iPhone XR camera was a little bit better, but I always felt like those cameras had a little bit more functionality, and it still seems to be that case, especially between these two. Yes, the iPhone XR's camera is still good, but in terms of the functionality, the iPhone 11 will have more features built into it. The UI is still almost the same, but you do have some more functionality, especially right here. You can go ultra wide, so you can see my leg right there. If you want to go back, you can go back, and you have a little bit more functionality. You can do 4K, still the same at 60 frames, but that front camera is also a cool little advantage. I'll have a whole separate video talking about the cameras between these two and showing videos and photos and all that stuff, but for now, yes, the iPhone 11 camera is the better one between the two. And ending it off with battery life, what I'll definitely tell you is that the battery sizes between these two really isn't that big of a difference. There's about 100 milliamp hour difference. You had a 2942 milliamp hour battery on the iPhone XR and a 3046 milliamp hour battery on the iPhone 11. So technically speaking, yes, the iPhone 11's battery is bigger, but the iPhone XR's battery isn't that far off. Now, if this battery degraded a lot, then it might not be at the 2900 anymore. It might be like 28 or 27, but Apple said this battery life is better, and I believe them. I think it is going to be better because it is a bigger battery, but I don't think there's going to be a humongous difference between the two, if I'm being honest. So don't go upgrading to an iPhone 11 expecting better battery life. The 11 Pro and the 11 Pro Max will actually probably have better battery life overall than these two phones. There's no reverse wireless charging as far as we know. You do have wireless charging on both of them, and in terms of that, I mean, that's pretty much where this comparison ends, man. If you have an upgrade and you're going to the Apple store and you're just wanting to get a new phone, let's say you're coming from like an iPhone 6 or a Galaxy S2 or whatever the case is, the iPhone 11 was probably the phone I would recommend you. However, it is the better phone overall, bigger battery, a little bit faster processor, IP68, also the extra camera, and the camera is better. But if you're coming from an iPhone XR, keep it. You're not really missing out on anything, if I'm being honest. And that's coming from somebody who has an iPhone XR and I own an iPhone 11. You're not going to notice that big of a difference. It's a good phone. It's a really great phone, especially for the price. It's just not that big of a difference. Like if this was a 10 out of 10, a perfect phone, which it's not, but let's say it was, this is like a 9.5 out of 10. Really, for me, the camera upgrade isn't that big of a difference for me because I don't use my camera that often. And if I do, the XR's camera suffices, like it's good enough. But you might be different. You might want something better. Obviously, Face ID is better on here as well. But for me, I like a fingerprint sensor, so this is always like secondary to me. But overall, I think that pretty much covers it. I've made my mark. If you guys have any questions or you have anything else to add, let me know in the comment section below. If you want to pick up an iPhone XR in the used market, you can always pick those up for a little bit cheaper, probably around $500 to $450. I'll leave some certified refurbished links on Amazon in the description below, the cheapest ones I'll find, so you guys can help support the channel at the same time. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it'll mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.